Hello, trading is closed on January 4th, 2021. Happy New Year. Let's do our disclaimer, go over our calls. It's my plan for tomorrow, January 5, 2021. If gaps sharply in the undesired direction, the call's killed before the open. There's no guarantee I'm right, so trade at your own risk. My email is mejt.trades@gmail.com. Look for the pattern with the early low. Here it is. Tomorrow also has the early low. Typically, this is a rally day with a high in the final hour. We got the final hour high. When the day is negative like this, it should lead to additional weakness in the days to come. Doesn't mean we have to drop right at the open. Doesn't mean we can't trade higher. But in general, this isn't the end of the drop when that happens. We had a MEJT target, 37, 33, 34 that printed. We had a target from today of 3680.44. Came within a few pennies. That's close enough. It's now optional. Doesn't have to print, but almost always will. So we're not going to make this an official call, but we're going to look for this area to print most of the time, but not every single time. 3680.44. Well, here's what we said. We said many indicators are less reliable this time of the year. That certainly is true. Not going to attribute much importance to the volume spike today, which typically marks lows, because volume was so subdued last week. Also, the big sell-off from the open to me is less convincing on the first trading day of the year, and it would be at some other time. It's still negative, don't get me wrong. Hit an all-time high and quickly rejected it. But this could have been people just taking their profits. This could have all been tax-related, just as the late rally on Thursday we said would be marked as tax-related if we gapped and promptly undercut the low. Direction of the gap doesn't make a difference. So that was tax-related purchases, and this could have been, doesn't have to be, could have been tax-related sells. This is a negative pattern, but it's important to note hit an all-time high, rejected it, dropped all day, and then closed over all these lows. So it didn't deliver as much negativity as it could have. During the day, MEJT gave a sell signal early on. Didn't have to drop as much as we did, but nothing prevented it. Later on, this rally, it said it was false, gave us this target, came within a few cents. It's enough, but it doesn't enable us to cross this off the list all the way. Well, this was the chart we showed over the weekend. This high seems to be holding. The real question here is this whole bull over? Certainly that's significant resistance, and it's one of the places at which it's possible. There are any number of ways you can count this. I hit a target about 14 to 16 points higher tomorrow. In the scheme of things, if this is a major top, it isn't really off by much. So we do have strong resistance in this area. It is possible to count the waves so they meet at today's high, but it's been possible to do that any number of times all the way up. For right now, we'll pencil in the wave blue B top we've been waiting for. We had this A, this could be B, but until some of these other lows fall, I probably should have a question mark on M, a question mark after it. One of the reasons I'm concerned is here's the diamond on stilts pattern we had a week and a half ago. Here's the first challenge of the origin of the left stilt. That typically holds. When you break through it the second time, it should collapse. That's what should happen. Instead, we recovered, held it as support, and went higher. So things aren't really lining up on the downside quite as cleanly as I'd like them to be. Everything gets rectified. If we gap down smartly tomorrow, undercut this low, and the chances of this high holding go way up. But when you come to a level like this and you're in free fall in the system, this isn't MEJT system. This is one of my other patterns. When you anticipate a collapse and you don't get it, and everybody and his uncle goes on the internet and says they call the top, saying it after the fact, I get suspicious we might have a little more recovery here than most people think. Now, once this breaks, and breaks with authority, and undercuts some of these lows, we should go to undercut the low of this cup, and that's 32.34. And that doesn't mean we have to stop at that point. I have targets as low as the 2800s if the top's in. Well, tomorrow's pattern has the early low. We could gap up. We have mixed signals. It's positive. The day-long drop couldn't close under the midday lows. The volatility indices are trading over their upper Bollinger Bands when they reverse through them, which has not happened yet. They give buy signals. We have numbers much higher than today's all-time high, which printed overnight. These numbers tend to be seen in regular trading hours at some point. It doesn't preclude dropping a lot first, but when you get an all-time high overnight, it tends to be in the same range as trading during regular trading hours in the long run. It is negative. Today's normally bullish pattern was negative. We should see lower prices soon. We have a lower MEJT target. It is optional. It doesn't have to print, but it almost always will. The real question is whether we've finally seen the end of the rally. I think it's entirely possible. As I've been saying for over a month, you can have a big drop start at any time. And I might have looked a bit out of tune when I said it, but in just a few hours today we erased almost all of December's gain. We did recover some, but almost a month's worth of rally was erased in just a few hours. But until some significant prior lows fall, the jury's still out. So we have a 36.8044 optional target, favored to print but not required. Unless we overtake today's high promptly, which I'm not predicting and probably won't happen, we should see lower prices at some point soon. But none of this precludes trying to recover some more of this drop first, particularly since we had support hold when it should have collapsed. So tomorrow's pattern has the early low. I think we can't rule out one more recovery attempt here, but in the long run, I think this should be the beginning of the end. I just can't say the end starts right from today's close. And that's today's call.